There's nothing like snook hook sets at dawn or catching a tarpon in the moonlight. Find your next fishing trip made easy on fishingbooker.com and experience the magic of the Sunshine State or any other destination on your fishing bucket list. Book a blue water adventure in search of sailfish or go snapper fishing with the kids. With over 6,000 captains and trips to choose from, planning your next one just got a whole lot easier. Download the Fishing Booker app on the Google Play or App Store, or visit them online at fishingbooker.com to book your trip today.
Maui Nui is on a mission to help balance axis deer populations for the good of our environment, communities, and food systems on the island of Maui. They've shared over 126,000 pounds of nutrient-dense protein with the Maui community. Secure your spot now. Become a snack subscriber and join in helping to build more resilient food and ecosystems on Maui. Visit MauiNuiVenison.com. That's MAUINUI venison.com and use promo code BEAR for 20% off your first order.
I'm sure a lot of you guys remember the old ceremonial hunting tradition of eating the heart out of the first animal you kill. Meat from those organs are among the most nutrient-rich foods on the planet. You can get those same benefits your ancestors craved via convenient daily capsules from Heart and Soil. Find out more at heartandsoil.co. And remember, use code MeatEater for 10% off your purchase.
My name is Clay Newcomb, and this is a production of the Bear Grease podcast called The Bear Grease Render, where we render down, dive deeper, and look behind the scenes of the actual Bear Grease podcast. Presented by FHF Gear, American-made, purpose-built hunting and fishing gear that's designed to be as rugged as the places we explore. So, Dad, Michael Roseman was just saying that he thought it was pretty suspicious that we moved to Mena in the early 1980s, and you became a banker in Mena right when Barry Seal and what's the movie, Michael?
I don't remember the name.
American Dream.
Yeah.
American Dream.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mate,
With Tom Cruise
I know. I've
and
seen the movie.
Bill Clinton and drugs and the airport and everything.
Yeah.
Contanistas.
Hey, man, I just don't know.
You might have had something to do with that.
I didn't say it was suspicious. What I said was I watched the movie, put two and two together, and text Brent, and I said, hey, I don't know Clay's daddy, but wasn't he a banker in Mena at this time? How many banks are in Mena?
There were a lot when he left.
Apparently there were a lot more when he left.
Well, welcome to the Bear Grease Render. Man, I've been excited about this ever since I knew who was going to be here. We have multiple newer-ish voices. I have to my left Brent Reeves. Brent, good to see you, my man.
Good to be here,
I want to talk about okay, we're going to go around the room, and I'm going to tell each of you what I would like to talk to you about. Okay. And then we're going to come back to you.
Thank you.
Brent, I want to talk to you about Ken's Reward. Brent's podcast this week, he talked about a horse named Ken's Reward. We got to come back to that. To Brent's left, Isaac Neal, Bear Grease assistant to the assistant producer of Bear Grease.
Yeah.
From Missouri. From the Queen city of the Ozarks. Did you know that Springfield, Missouri calls themselves the Queen city of the Ozarks?
Really?
As far as I know, King City of the Ozarks is up for grabs, so I don't know what you're grousing about. We're just saying we're the second best city in the Ozarks.
Yeah. You should call yourself the runner-up city in the Ozarks.
It's pretty good. There's a lot of cities in the Ozarks.
From the runner-up city in the Ozarks, Isaac Neal, to Isaac's left, Michael Roseman.
Hello.
Man, Michael, Dad, he owns, operates, he's the engineer, he's the lead man.
Dishwasher
at Sunspot
janitor.
Coon Lights. So the coon lights that we sell on MeatEater.com that me and Brent use, the big high-powered coon lights,
this is the man behind it.
Really?
So, yep.
Yes, sir.
Wow.
The
Pretty cool,
kingpin.
man.
Yeah. And so what I want to talk to Michael about later is his new light. And I'm going to tell everyone in the United States that if you don't own one of these, you should. I
hate America.
I use my light all the time, and I don't even have a coon dog right now. I have one retired dog that backtracks a lot. So
Runs
technically-
rabbits and backtracks.
Well, it's pretty straight.
Oh.
It just we just hit a lot of den trees
Oh.
after I lost my good female. So I use my coon light
Turn him around.
almost every day. Incredible light. I use it in the backcountry. We'll get back to that.
10-4.
The guest of honor today, because he's come so far, is my buddy Chris Powell of the Houndsman XP podcast. Well, how far did you come today?
I traveled for 3 weary days by mule and donkey and covered wagon.
We're talking physical distance because I thought there was personal growth or something. You've come a long way.
Yeah. There's always personal growth when you're traveling with a Yog Terrier.
Yes.
Patience.
Oh, you got your
tolerance.
dog with you?
Yeah, I got Tough with me.
Oh, okay. Cool. You came from Indiana,
Yes, I did.
Northwest Arkansas.
Yep.
Great. Well, okay, boys, we're going to talk to Chris about this newly proposed, it's going to get serious, Colorado legislation that's designed to shut down mountain lion hunting with hounds in the state of Colorado. So Chris is he's stayed up to date on that, and we're going to introduce that and talk about it
To the world.
We're going to come back to that. So thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, it was my pleasure.
Yeah, man. And then to your left, Gary Believer Newcomb. Did you hear your name come up on the podcast?
I did. And
I
boy, you nailed it, brother.
I'm excited about this episode. It's been a while since we've done a documentary style podcast. We've been doing stories for 10 weeks.
Yep.
So, if you're new to this, if this is your first ever time to tune into the Bear Grease podcast, our render is when we talk about the documentary style podcast that we do. And the last 5 episodes, we did 2 episodes, Chris, in September on Alaska stories, which just was a compilation of wild, harrowing Alaskan stories, which I really enjoyed. And then we did 3 full deer hunting episodes, which to me are some of my favorite things that we do. I just like hearing the way people think about a moment inside of their hunting career. Really, it's just like I go to these guys that I know about them, I have respect for, and I'm like, tell me your best deer story. And I really enjoy that. So, all right, going back the other direction, Brent.
Yep.
Ken's Reward. So, Brent, on this Country Life podcast, I'm going to take a little bit of credit for a lot of the success of this Country Life.
I wish Misty was here.
Because the way this works, Dad, is Brent will be driving somewhere. He told me the story of Ken's Reward years ago.
Yeah, a long time ago.
And I was like, dude, you need to figure out a way to tell that story on This Country Life. So if you haven't heard it, which go back and listen to it, Brent's dad bought him a horse from a sale in Ada, Oklahoma.
Yep.
How old were you, Brent?
Oh, let's see. I would have probably, in 1988, I'd have been 22, 21,
Brent's
22.
22 years old. His dad and his best friend go to a horse sale in Ada, Oklahoma, and get a great deal on a purebred American quarter horse that was supposedly a rodeo horse.
Yeah.
And then
And he couldn't buck. They said he wouldn't buck good enough, so they made a cow horse out of him.
they wanted him for a bucking horse.
Yep, that's
so
what
they
he was-
made him into a roping horse.
Yep, they made him into a
You got to hear him
ranch
tell the
horse.
story. You did a good job of telling the story. But the whole podcast was about animal names. Like, why do we name animals the way we do? And it's a mystery why this horse was named Ken's Reward.
Yeah.
Because, he ends
Until
up
the
having a
end.
lot of trouble with the horse. Yeah.
It was not. He was not conducive to what I wanted him to do, and what I wanted him to do was be able to get on him and ride him and get off of him without having to go to the
dying.
ER. Yeah, without any type of medical personnel involved in it.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to get on a horse and go from point A to point B,
Sounds simple.
and then come back, and both of us be happy. And it didn't work out that way.
Didn't work out with Ken's Reward.
No.
Well, here's what we're going to do. Here's what we're going to do, if y'all are in agreement with it. We're putting out an APB across the Bear Grease world. If somebody can legitimately tell us and verify where, like, who owned Ken's Reward and what the story was. All we know was that in 1988, it was bought at a horse sale in Ada, Oklahoma, and it supposedly came from Texas.
And I saw the papers. It is an absolute 100% registered American quarter horse. I saw the papers, and his name was Ken's Reward. KEN''S Reward.
Okay.
That was it.
Whoever can get us in touch with Ken,
Yeah.
or should Ken no longer be with us, Ken?
Yeah, Ken's
Is-
next of
is-
kin.
I will give you one of these, a genuine Arkansas Plott treed coonskin hat
That's a
made
rare
by
thing right
Josh
there. Yeah.
Landbridge Spillmaker. Yeah, for a Plott to tree a coon, yeah, that's rare.
I tell you what I'll do. I'll sweeten the pot. I'll throw in a Case Mini Trapper pocket knife.
Okay, it's
There
a
it is.
deal. Now, it's hard to write out, like, we're not lawyers here, but it's really got to be a genuine, like, verifiable lead where we could talk to someone and get some sense of why this horse was named Ken's Reward. Any holes in this plan, Chris?
I don't see any. I'm looking at the hat. I mean, it's that coonskin cap right there is
It's
legit.
legit.
We know what a mini trapper is. I mean, somebody's just got to come up with the right info.
Are
here.
there any loopholes, though, Dad? Like, could someone, like,
Liars.
yeah. I mean, but we're gonna have to talk to Ken. Now, somebody had to be pretty
Oh,
good
okay,
to pull
yeah,
the wool
yeah.
over our eyes.
Yeah, okay.
Is this Ken's Reward's reward?
That's it. Ken's
You've
Rewards
seen
reward.
the papers, right?
I have seen the papers.
And you don't need to disclose it here, but do you know how that horse was bred?
No,
Okay.
I don't.
Well, that's
I don't remember.
That's one of the verification things out the window right there.
I don't remember. But I'll tell you what I've thought about a million times. And I didn't have a youngin' in the world when I had that horse. Since then, I've had 3. And every time I helped them with a school project that involved glue, I fantasized about me squeezing Ken out on a piece of paper.
Oh, yeah.
That's where he wound up.
Wow,
But
that's dark.
That's
brother.
really saying something.
I'm just telling you, he tried to kill me.
That is pretty dark.
I feel like I'd be remiss to not point out that you're halfway to being a long hunter by the time you get that hat and that knife. You're just
Yes.
missing a set of buckskins
that-
and a sharp
That is a
cow.
great. I'm glad you reminded me. That was
Yep.
what we're going to talk to Clay about today.
Yep.
Is me and Steve Ranella and a team at Meat Eater, and one of those team members was Randall Williams, Dr. Randall.
Dr. Randall.
We talked about it this week, but we've come out with an audio original. It's essentially an audio book about the long hunters, and it's available for pre-sale. Did you see that, Dad, on the internet? Do you get on the internet much?
Yeah.
Big internet guy.
We've done a terrible job of marketing this.
No,
He's on the internet right now.
no. This week, Meat Eater announced our audio book called The Long Hunters, 1761 to 1775 by Steve Ranella, Clay Newcomb, narrated by Steve Ranella and Clay Newcomb. And it is never before compiled data on the long hunters. I mean, I'm serious. There has never before been this data crunched together in such a compact way. I mean, it's incredible, and it's really cool. And so you can pre-order that now through Penguin Random House through the links that are, on Meat Eater and stuff. But it'll come out on January 9th.
We'll put a link in the description.
Yeah. So I'm very excited about that. It was a ton of fun.
Yeah.
So basically, it's me and Steve Ranella kind of going back and forth in this audio book.
Yep.
And really cool. So
I can tell you one thing about the internet is every time I even turn around, Brent Reeves comes up going, "This country life," and I'm going, "Brent, back off, man." I mean, I got
just
to look.
popping up.
I got to look for yours. I mean, I got to go. Come on, Clay. I need to watch this. And all of a sudden, there's
you mean
Brent.
on the Bear Grease feed?
Yeah. I just when I go after it, this guy's got the product. He's playing it.
I've got a face
whole
for
lot
radio.
better than you.
That's what it is.
Yeah. They're feeding you Brent Reeves.
Come on.
Yeah. Michael, tell us about your new light. So, let me go back. I already said it before, but I have been in multiple showdowns with big game hunters that thought they had a good light.
Never lost, did you?
Never.
You won't.
Coon hunters win the light game every time. Am I right, Chris?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, for real, I've been in hunting camps and been like, somebody shine their light, and I'd be like, that's a cute light.
That's right.
And they're like, oh, this is the best light ever. And I will step outside and shine them. And the thing, coon hunters don't have the market on much. Let me put it that way. The one thing coon hunters have the market on is bright lights that last a long time. And I use my sunspot light all the time. I take it on backcountry hunts. I take it off my hard hat. So I have a hard hat. I've had some people ask me about why the hard hat. You don't have to use a hard hat. The idea of a hard hat is that it holds a heavier light, which the bigger coon lights, I mean, they're heavier than like a little, Energizer Bunny, little bitty pocket light you put in your pocket. It's a little bigger than that, but they last forever and incredibly bright. Let me ask you this, on the lowest power of a sunspot, like the lowest walking light power. So this light would have multiple stages of brightness, and even it dishes the light out different. Like it has a spotlight, but it also has a walking light. If you turned it on just the lowest walking light, how long would that light burn on a big charge?
Over 100 hours.
So you could literally leave it on in your bag for a
4
week.
days.
Yeah.
4 days.
4 or 5 days, yeah.
I mean, that's pretty incredible.
What about candle power? Do you still use candle power, or is there some other?
So yeah, they do, but it's lux is what we go by. Yeah. So a lot of people that look at lights, the first question they ask you is how many lumens does it have, and that's not really a measurement that's useful for us. Lumens is a measurement that comes from the factory, so it's how much that LED can output with this much current put on it. And that's total light. That's light that's lost in the reflector, light that you're never going to see. It's not something that's useful, but that's what the standard.
Oh, so lumens is not reality. Lumens,
it is, but not in the way that we use it.
Okay.
So, but that's the way that the industry in like Walmart and the smaller little stuff, they advertise lumens because that can be verified.
Gotcha.
So I have a Cree LED. It has this much current put to it. Cree says you have this many lumens.
Okay.
Lux, like you're talking about, candle power, is how much throw that light has. So how far it's going to shine. And that's what we call brightness.
So you could have two LEDs with the same lumens, but if you put a different reflector on there,
yes, it's
like
the optic that you use.
So
yes.
the lux is more of a real world, how much light you have.
Throw of the light. Lumens is actually how much light you have coming out of it. But there's no way to measure that. What he's saying is, depending on the optics that you use for it, you can have 1,000 lux. These light bulbs, or lumens, I'm sorry, these light bulbs have a high lumen value to them. And they just softly light up your room. So it doesn't do you any good coon hunting. But you put an optic behind it that can gather all that light and put it in one place for you, and that's what we're calling lux.
Okay.
Finally, I've been using these lights forever, and I have heard him talk about this 1,000 times,
and
I finally understand it.
It's slow.
I'll tell you a
slow.
throwback on that is I was headed across 40, and boom, there's a nightlight store off the. I like squealed tires getting off the road because when I started hunting, Nightlight came out.
Nightlight was it.
They came out with a 6-volt gel cell, and then I had one of those for a while, and then they put the strobe on it, and I don't know that it did anything.
It doesn't do anything.
It doesn't do anything, but it was cool to
The
have.
strobe was designed to make a coon look at your eyes. So you clicked it and it.
So you
strobe.
push the button on top of the rheostat, and boom, it'd start flashing, and you think that he's going to look now. And the only thing it did was melt your rheostat down and start smoking on your side.
The Nightlight was the first real coon hunting light I ever had. The only thing I had before that, we carried a truck battery in a backpack with this giant spotlight that they used to make that was called a sunspot.
Really?
That's where the name of the game warden took it from me.
But that's another story.
That's another story. Dad, you bought me a nightlight when I was in the 9th grade.
Yeah.
We used to have those big belts. You used to have to carry a battery pack. So you had those big, thick belts. I still got it. It was the industry standard back in the day. But now the lights are way better, way brighter, way smaller, way lighter.
The only thing in this world that is increased in functionality and quality and decreased in price is a Coon light.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now there's the sell for you.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, I used to pay $400, $500, $600 for some of these belt lights, and they were literally maybe a fifth as bright as what we do now. And you're paying $300 for a light now that lasts longer, is brighter. So
you can signal the space shuttle with
your
them.
light.
Oh yeah.
And now this is not like a sales pitch. There's people, and I'm one of those people that if I like something, I'll talk to people on the street about it. I'll be like, I want you to like it.
You got a minute to talk about coon hunting lights?
If you don't like it, I'm offended. Like, I'm like, well, golly, man, No, Coon Lights is one of them, and there's a lot of good Coon Light brands. Don't get me wrong. I mean, there's plenty of them. I'm just talking about Coon Lights, but Michael's got his. Your light has a lifetime warranty.
Yeah,
send it to you.
$10 for return shipping, and that's it.
It's
Only
incredible.
thing we don't cover is damage, and we cover that most of the time.
Yeah,
depending on how bad.
I mean, so this is not a throwaway.
No.
Deal.
You ever find yourself
Sunspot's considered one of the top lights in the in the country and in my community for sure.
Yeah.
You ever find yourself just putting on the helmet to go out to grocery shop or something just so you have an entry point for a while?
in the middle of the day?
Okay.
Break the ice.
When you're on a competition coon hunt, tell me if this is right or wrong.
I know where you're headed.
When you're on a competition coon hunt and you stop at a gas station and you got 4 guys in a cast in a cab of a truck, maybe you know them, maybe you don't, and you go to a gas station, everybody wears their coon light into the gas station.
That's
Not
right.
It's usually
Is that where you thought I was going to go?
Well, kind of.
Okay.
Kinda. I've done that multiple times. You leave the house hunting or whatever, and you got to stop at the gas station, get a pop, get a can of chew, whatever, and you got your hip boots on and your coon light on, your vest on, and people are looking at you like, what is he doing? I didn't know we had coal mining around here.
The way I've justified it is somehow when you're in a competition hunt, like, it's okay. Like, if I went to Walmart, I'd just walk in there with my
It's your uniform,
chaps
man.
and my big light on. But where did you think I was going?
Oh,
Chris?
that was it. Yeah, the gas station store, for sure. Yeah, for sure.
Coon lights. So y'all came out with a new Copperhead.
Yeah, we come out with a new light we dropped 2 nights ago. It's called the Copperhead. Comparable to our other lights. It's brighter, smaller, lighter weight than our Viper, which was our top end light.
Yeah.
Smaller than the Viper, lighter weight, brighter, all the same functions.
And
it's a slick looking light.
I like it. Okay, we're just marching around here. Chris.
Yeah.
I'm on a mission, man. I want to talk about this story of the Plotts.
I wore my shirt for you.
Yeah, he's got the American Plott Association shirt on.
It was either this one or not a game warden T-shirt.
Yeah. Dad, Chris is a retired game warden.
Oh,
Yeah.
good.
I talked to one of our
That's what
mutual
you
friends.
think, right, Brent?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. They're all
I should have left that game.
I talked to one
out.
of our mutual friends just yesterday, Chris. And no. You told me this story.
Maybe.
One of our mutual friends
Yeah.
introduced you when you went bear hunting with them in East Tennessee. He would introduce you as, this is Chris Powell. He's a former game warden from Indiana.
Oh, yeah.
And Chris kind of got embarrassed about it, like saying, hey, you don't have to say that. And the guy was like, trust me, I don't want these guys to find out later that you are a former game warden. He said they won't trust you. Is that about the way it happened?
That's exactly the way it happened. You know, it's like, since when do we have to walk around and this is Clay Newcomb. He works at Meat Eater. This is Gary Newcomb. He was a retired banker. You know, it's like, oh, this is a game warden, and we're going to introduce him like that. It's like being a preacher. You know, I never introduce my preacher. It's like, hey, this is so and so. He's my preacher. I mean, it's like sending out the warning.
Yeah.
Don't drink a beer. Don't cuss. Don't tell any off-color jokes. So yeah, I used to get introduced like that.
Yeah, he was doing it as a favor to you, though.
I think he was really good at pivoting on the moment and coming up with that. But I do think it was for his benefit.
Yeah.
That he wasn't bringing a game warden to the mountain.
He's like, just full disclosure here.
Yeah, full disclosure.
Yeah, full disclosure. Yeah.
Yep.
You know, some of my favorite bear grease stories were about game wardens.
Yeah.
I mean, they just go down as the top-notch stories, man. I loved them.
Yeah. That seems to be the consensus of the world.
Yeah.
Because some of our best episodes were Louis Dell and Charlie, and then the Secret Agent Man.
Yeah,
stuff we did.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Ready to win Mother's Day and cement your reputation as the best gift giver in the family? Give the moms in your life an Aura digital picture frame preloaded with decades of family photos. She'll love looking back on these memories and seeing what you're up to today. Even better, with unlimited storage and an easy-to-use app, you can keep updating mom's frame with new photos, so it's the gift that keeps on giving. And this is not a joke. Juju Newcomb has an Aura frame, and we share photos, and they're incredible. Also, my mother-in-law has one. We have them. They truly are really good, really high quality. The Aura frame is easy to set up. It takes just 2 minutes to set up a frame using the Aura app. It also adjusts the display depending on light levels in the room to maintain the true color of your photos. For real, the digital screen is amazing. Right now, Aura has a great deal for Mother's Day. Listeners can save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $30 off plus free shipping on their best-selling frame when you use code BEAR, B-E-A-R, BEAR. That's auraframes.com. Use code BEAR at checkout to save. Terms and conditions apply. I've had a Helix Sleep mattress for over 2 years, and it is for sure the nicest mattress that I've ever slept on. I've slept much better in the last 2 years, been more comfortable than I have for my whole life. And that's true. The Helix lineup offers 20 unique mattresses, including the award-winning Luxe Collection, the newly released Helix Elite Collection, a mattress designed for big and tall sleepers, and even a mattress made just for kids. Take the Helix Sleep Quiz and find your perfect mattress in under 2 minutes, and your personalized mattress is shipped straight to your door free of charge. Helix has several different mattress models to choose from, each designed for specific sleep positions and feel preferences. Helix is offering 20% off all mattress orders and 2 free pillows for our listeners. Go to helixsleep.com/clay and use the code HelixPartner20. This is their best offer yet and won't last long. With Helix, better sleep starts now. The old-timers say that the turkeys start gobbling when the leaves are as big as squirrels' ears and the red buds start popping. And we're about there. And we are there in the South. The Onyx Hunt app is one of my most valuable tools in the spring woods. With tools like coniferous versus deciduous tree distribution layer, you can save time by locating edges or transition areas of mixing habitats from home. Find an area like this with water in close proximity, and more than likely, there will be a gobbling turkey nearby. Knowing the exact boundaries of private ground ensures I stay on the right side of the fence, but can easily find public ground to go see if I can't strike a gobbler. If you do get one to sound off, using compass mode and waypoints will help you pinpoint his exact location, allowing you to move in and make the perfect setup to bring him right into your lap. Download the Onyx Hunt app today. You'll be glad you did. Onyx has a special offer for you. Use code BEARGREASE to receive 20% off your membership at onyxmaps.com/hunt this spring.
Chris, give us like a high-level view of what's going on in Colorado.
Yeah, so we're going to get serious, huh?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what's happening. We're seeing science-based responsible wildlife management being hijacked in the state of Colorado through what's called Initiative 91. And it's been introduced. It went through what's called the title board hearing, where they've got to make sure that the labeling is right. And Initiative 91 is going to be a ballot initiative where the public gets to vote on this issue of wildlife management. And it pertains directly to mountain lions and bobcats. And they threw in lynx for sensational value. You can't hunt lynx in the lower 48 anyway because they're on the endangered species list.
Are there lynx in Colorado?
There are lynx in Colorado.
Really?
So they just threw that one on the pile just to add to the sensationalism, even though you still can't hunt them. So
you can't hunt them now.
No, you can't hunt them now. So why does that need to be there?
Yeah, I see.
Because it's an animal on the endangered species list that when the people are voting,
yeah.
look it up. They can say, "Oh yeah, we definitely won't let them."
Yeah.
It's
hunt
totally,
this.
totally sensationalized. But what's happened is some groups have gotten together in Colorado and put this forward. Have got approval for it to be moving forward and be introduced to the ballot next year. So they've still got to go through signature acquisition and things like that. Right now it's in the Supreme Court, and basically that's just making sure that all the I's are dotted and all the T's are crossed and things like that. But the most alarming thing about it is not because of the lions and the bobcat issue. I mean, take those two animals out and put elk in there, or put sheep in there, or put, whatever animal you want, white-tailed deer in there. This is just a typical tactic where people with influence are trying to hijack the traditional North American model for wildlife conservation and make it a political issue. Mm-hmm. So when you start doing that, there's a lot of dangers and a lot of trip ups for that. We don't necessarily need somebody who's uninformed, who's been sensationalized to and had this narrative sold to them based on emotion to vote on this. Because it's just alarming. It's an alarming thing. I mean, our wildlife is, and our story of our conservation story is amazing. Going back to the 1880s and the recovery and the money that was spent and it's all because hunters stepped up and said, we'll do this.
Right.
And then the first tenet of the North American model is wildlife as a public trust. So we did that, and we said, go to the park and look at elk. Go to the national forest and look at bears. Do all this other stuff. So we willingly did that. It's the only bill that I'm aware of that was ever passed, the Pittman-Robertson bill that was ever passed, where people said, tax us.
Yeah.
Please tax us. So we've got a big investment in this thing, and the anti-hunting crowd is trying to flip the narrative and divert us away from science-based and responsible wildlife management, make it a political weapon, and base it on emotion.
Who is doing this?
There are a couple local groups in Colorado that are leading the charge on this.
Yeah.
That it hasn't been revealed yet, but we're pretty confident that there are some larger, more well-funded groups that are
I heard
backing
that
this.
they've got a lot of money and are waiting. I mean, this is a very well-funded thing for Initiative 91. Is that correct?
That's yet to be seen. You're talking which side?
Well, not our side.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they're gonna. What's the tell me the timeline? So give me a timeline of like when are they signing the well? I don't even want to ask.
Right now it's been introduced to go to the Colorado Supreme Court.
Okay.
And that's expected to be heard sometime in January to make sure all the legalities and
make sure the law works, and then
the constitutionality
when does it go to
of
the people to vote on?
Yeah. When does it go?
When does it?
Next November in the 2024 election.
Okay.
So between that time, you're going to have a period of time where you're going to have signatures to make sure they meet the ballot requirements for the required number of signatures for it to appear on a ballot.
Yeah.
There are going to be lawsuits. There's going to be a campaign time when both sides of we as hunters are going to launch a campaign. The anti-hunters are going to launch a campaign. We're going to have this clash as titans in the state of Colorado.
Yeah.
All through next summer. And then leading up to the election, we need to have our ducks in a row by July, I would say, to be able to start working on this.
Who is the main guy? What's the guy's name that we were talking about?
Yeah, the guy that's spearheading the whole efforts out there is Dan Gates, and he is the head of an organization called Coloradans for Responsible Wildlife Management.
Yeah.
And a lot of different entities are coming together to back him, and he's been working this state for 30 years.
We knew this was coming.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Colorado's ripe for it. It's the demographics there are right.
Big urban cities with most of the population, and then
to give you an idea, I saw a slide on that that was put together in a presentation while I was out in Colorado a month or so ago. There are 5.8 million people in the state of Colorado. 5.2 million of those live on the Front Range and then Denver, Boulder, that metroplex.
Yeah.
5.2 million. That leaves 600,000 people living out in the sticks that understand ranching, wildlife management, and things like that.
Yeah.
So it's going to be it is the battleground state for wildlife management
in
for
2024.
In 2024.
Yeah.
There is no place hotter.
You'll be hearing more stuff from us and some specific calls to action at different times. But yeah, we're gonna do our best, Bear Grease and Meat Eater, to get the word out. And because I mean, people that are listening to this podcast are gonna know why we're against and closing down the season, and why we're for predator management.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
I wouldn't even
have to go.
I wouldn't even try to pigeonhole it as a predator management. This is an outright attack on science-based wildlife management.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
And not just the predator control. So from what I understand, and I don't big game hunt with hounds, but from what I understand, the cat hunters are basically responsible for saving mountain lions.
That's a great point, because if you were not for the houndsmen that were out there catching mountain lions, organizations like Colorado's Parks and Wildlife would not be able to collect the data. There's so much that goes into a mountain lion study. You catch it, you dart it, you collar it, you can collect all that data. You can find out their home ranges. You can find their kills on ungulate species. You take the bones from those ungulate species back into the lab. You can measure the fat. You can test their DNA. The predator management studies are an integral part and valuable to the management of all wildlife species.
Yeah. And just the general idea, too, that a hunted animal has cultural value, and where an animal has cultural value, it will ultimately be protected by the people that want to hunt it.
Always.
And so, there's nobody in Colorado that wants more mountain lions than mountain lion hunters.
You got that right.
I mean, but we also know that predator numbers, what's happening continental wide is that predator numbers are on the rise. Mm-hmm. I mean, wolves, mountain lions, coyotes, coons, possums, the meso predators, black bears, like everything is those are the things that seem to be doing really well right now. Mm-hmm. And so hunting with hounds is a management tool, highly regulated. It is not out of control. Mountain lions are doing incredibly well in Colorado.
They're not threatened.
This is a political thing of someone that doesn't like the idea of people going out and hunting mountain lions. This is something that's been going on for hundreds of years. And I mean, people hunting with dogs has been going on for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. But, you get the point. So, man, everybody's always heard me talk about guarding the gate. It's been a while since I've actually talked about it, so I'll quickly review the doctrine. I believe, and a lot of people believe, that the whole model of North American wildlife, our management system, the weak link, the place where the anti-hunting community really has a strong foothold is inside of the predator arena, specifically bears and mountain lions. It's harder for them to sell to the general public that hunting a deer or hunting a squirrel or hunting a whatever is bad. It's a pretty easy sell for them to say, hey, these guys are out there killing bears and mountain lions. What are they even doing with them? It's a trophy hunt. They don't eat them. All this stuff that's not true.
Correct.
I believe that weakest link in this whole system is the place that we need to guard the most. There kind of was, like, I would say 10 years ago, by my interpretation of the hunting community, there was kind of this idea that those guys are kind of on the fringe, and those guys being the predator hunters and specifically the hound hunters that are bear hunting with hounds, and those guys are kind of on the fringe. That's kind of going away. We're not going to associate with that. Like, people weren't wanting to step up and talk. And that's not entirely true. That's a generalization, hyperbolic, as they say, exaggeration to make a point. But I felt like that was happening. And then we were like, hey, the weakest link is the most important thing.
Yep.
Because once they get that, we know this is not exaggerated hype political talk. Like, incrementalization, like the anti-hunting community, and whether it's this big, really design thing. I mean, they're kind of like, it's like they got a 100-year plan to stamp this thing out. Yeah, they've even said it.
You can't compromise. You can't give up 1 inch.
Yeah,
because it will not satisfy them.
Yeah,
you can't say okay.
Yeah,
we'll just do this, and that'll be the end of it.
Yeah,
but it won't be the end of it.
There is nothing that they do that is not with intent. Everything they do is purpose driven. The reason they came to Colorado is because of the population dynamics there. And
right.
And
they felt like they could win.
The reason they come after mountain lions is because it mainly affects houndsmen. And so houndsmen historically have been very loosely organized.
Yeah.
Very, even like you alluded to, being looked at on the fringe. I mean, you can't even get bear hunters or anybody to come together to say that, all of them to say that, hey man, you guys are hunting with hounds, go for it. We even get sniped from inside the hunting community.
Yeah.
But
I think that's changing.
Yes, I do too.
Yeah.
I 100% believe that. I think we're gaining a lot of ground there. So it was just go back to the art of war with Sun Tzu. These people know what they're doing, and they're coming after the weakest link.
Yeah.
And what we need from the hunting community as a whole is, like Brent said, that we stand together and we say no. It's like, it's like a family reunion. You don't get along with everybody there.
Yeah.
But if somebody comes up and punches your cousin in the face that you don't like, you're throwing in.
Yeah.
And that's what we need.
Well, and that's what I think we've seen in the last 7-8 years is more of the general hunting community coming around the hound and predator community and saying, hey, this is a big part. This is a part of the family, and we're concerned. Because what we've always said is that if you're a deer hunter in Missouri, if you're a turkey hunter, if you're, this matters to you. Like if the whole of North American hunting, and we don't realize that we're in the heyday of so many parts of North American hunting. I mean, we have this incredible thing, and the trend, and you see it in other places in the world, is that freedom slips away and goes away. And so, we're saying, hey, we're a generation that is not going to give anything. Now, we're not trying to be hard-nosed or jerks about it. I mean, we're just saying, hey, this is just who we are. As Americans, there is a place inside of our society where the hunters reside. You don't have to be a hunter. We love wildlife. If you in general, people in America love wildlife and wild places. Well, guess who does too? The hunters. We're the ones who are funding wildlife habitat conservation across the country. We're all on the same team. You want hunters. Hunters provide a incredible service to society. We need mountain lion hunters. We need bear hunters. And so that's why this is important. Because the idea would be like, well, I don't hunt mountain lions in Colorado. I probably never will. I don't care. That's a short-sighted thing, so it's longer term. And I mean, that's really all there is to say about it.
We have hunted. This generation of hunters has inherited 150 years of conservation work.
Right.
I mean, you think about that. We are the benefactors of Teddy Roosevelt and
all these guys that had it a lot worse than us.
All these guys that built this, and now we're enjoying it all. And it's like, I'm a deer hunter and I got my pile. I'm an elk hunter and I got my pile. I'm a houndsman and I got my pile. Man, we're not going to survive like that. We gotta find ways to bridge those gaps.
Yeah. Yeah.
None of us can stand alone.
Yeah. So, yeah, this is all really great, and it's just an invitation for the whole hunting community to rally around this thing.
Can I tell people where to find more information
Absolutely.
and updates?
Yep.
So if you go to savethehuntcolorado.org,
Okay.
then you can get updates on what's going on with Initiative 91. You can also go to our website at houndsmanxp.com. Scroll. We're dropping a lot of content on this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And just reach out to me if you're concerned about it and you're looking, say, man, this is a good fight, I want to get in it. Just contact me through our website at houndsmanxp.com.
And there's a bunch of groups that are going to be doing a lot.
Absolutely.
I'm a big fan of howl.org, the guys at Howl. I think
they're working on it.
I think they do a good job of getting stuff out.
Blood Origins.
Blood Origins is another one.
All these groups. I mean, Sportsman's Alliance, big time.
Yes, I'm glad you brought them up.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
But CRWM is going to be the place that we need to get this money to. So that's where I would tell you to go first. Go
Who
to
has
CRWM.
the bigger army? I mean, if you just say this is war,
it's
U.S. versus China, who's the probable winner?
Well, I think if you're talking funding, then I believe that the anti-hunting crowd is got more dedicated funds to fight this today. However, if you look at the amount of money that hunting produces, then that's one of the biggest things that your person that's a non-hunter that's got to make a decision in Colorado, who's going to fund this wildlife next year? If we outlaw it this year, who's going to fund it next year? It's not going to be the Humane Society of the United States or Center for Biological Diversity or Friends of Mountain Lions or whoever is behind this. You're going to strip the funding mechanism to the tune of about $3.5 billion a day.
If you can communicate the way y'all have communicated, I mean, you win. But you got a gullible populace out there that could care less about it.
Right.
They just read it and go, hey, that sounds like a good idea. I would be one of them. Well, I'd look at that 5 minutes. I'd go, yeah, man, get rid of it.
Well, that's one of their tactics.
So you got to be. I mean, they're lying to
they
the
tried
public.
to push this thing through with sensational narrative, like talking about trophy hunting.
Yeah.
Well, Clay, you do an outstanding job of defending trophy hunting. I mean, I've watched you do it on Joe Rogan. I mean, you turned it around on Rogan and explained it to him.
Yeah.
But that's part of it, and that language has been taken off of it. But they're trying to redefine what hunting actually is, and that's the most important thing that affects all hunters.
Yeah. Well, there's going to be a whole lot more coming about it, but that's the business. This is a boardroom. That was the business we needed to take care of. And thanks for giving us the details, Chris.
Yeah.
As well as I could.
Yeah, no, that we're going to have a lot more about that kind of stuff.
Ready to win Mother's Day and cement your reputation as the best gift giver in the family? Give the moms in your life an Aura digital picture frame preloaded with decades of family photos. She'll love looking back on these memories and seeing what you're up to today. Even better, with unlimited storage and an easy-to-use app, you can keep updating Mom's frame with new photos, so it's the gift that keeps on giving. And this is not a joke. Juju Newcomb has an Aura frame, and we share photos, and they're incredible. Also, my mother-in-law has one. We have them. They truly are really good, really high quality. The Aura frame is easy to set up. It takes just 2 minutes to set up a frame using the Aura app. It also adjusts the display depending on light levels in the room to maintain the true color of your photos. For real, the digital screen is amazing. Right now, Aura has a great deal for Mother's Day. Listeners can save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $30 off plus free shipping on their best-selling frame when you use code BEAR, B-E-A-R, BEAR. That's auraframes.com. Use code BEAR at checkout to save. Terms and conditions apply. The old-timers say that the turkeys start gobbling when the leaves are as big as squirrels' ears and the red buds start popping. And we're about there. And we are there in the South. The onX Hunt app is one of my most valuable tools in the spring woods. With tools like coniferous versus deciduous tree distribution layer, you can save time by locating edges or transition areas of mixing habitats from home. Find an area like this with water in close proximity, and more than likely, there will be a goblin turkey nearby. Knowing the exact boundaries of private ground ensures I stay on the right side of the fence, but can easily find public ground to go see if I can't strike a gobbler. If you do get one to sound off, using compass mode and waypoints will help you pinpoint his exact location, allowing you to move in and make the perfect setup to bring him right into your lap. Download the onX Hunt app today. You'll be glad you did. onX has a special offer for you. Use code BEARGREASE to receive 20% off your membership at onxmaps.com/hunt this spring. We've all seen plenty of gadgets and fads come and go, but here's one product that stood the test of time: Seafoam motor treatment. Lots of hunters and anglers know that Seafoam helps engines run better and last longer. It's really simple. When you pour it in your gas tank, Seafoam cleans harmful fuel deposits that cause engine problems. I'm talking common stuff like hard starts, rough engine performance, or lost fuel economy. Seafoam is an easy way to prevent or overcome these problems. Just pour a can in your gas tank and let it clean your fuel system. You probably know someone who's used a can of Seafoam to get their truck or boat going again. People everywhere rely on Seafoam to keep their trucks, boats, and small engines running the way they should the entire season. Help your engine run better and last longer. Pick up a can of Seafoam today at your local auto parts store or visit seafoamworks.com to learn more.
The podcast, Pure Americana. Let me start off by saying, Chris would understand this. This is a pretty risky podcast, Dad. I kind of, yeah. I mean, to
Oh yeah, I understand that.
to not challenge. I didn't challenge anything, but to even put out there that there was some skepticism around the origin story. But I did it because I actually felt like it would be fair to the origin story to do that.
What's next?
this
Rewrite
was so-
the Bible, Clay?
This is so beneficial to the Plott Hound
Yeah.
origins and everything. I mean, they just took a little area like this and exploded it all through bear grease. People are going to buy books. People are going to talk about this. You know, Clay's been foreshadowing what a great podcast he's got coming up, and I turned it on. I thought, "Dadgum Plott Hounds."
You thought, I don't care about Plott Hounds.
But I mean, it was an awesome deal, and I tell you, it was really good, and I think everybody will really enjoy it. It was a big deal, just like you said. But at first glance, a Plott Hound, man, I don't need no stinking Plott Hound. But now
now you want one. It's a human story. It's a family story.
Yeah.
It's a history story.
I don't think you offended anybody.
Well, what I'm saying is in the Plott community, like people are so opinionated and so just it's they get attached to a narrative and they sometimes wouldn't want to hear anything else. But yeah, Brent, if should I die a mysterious, strange death, will you lead an expedition into the Great Smoky
I've already
Mountains?
got the team picked out. We're ready. I can't tell you that.
Yeah. Chris, what did you think? What was like the most? Now, this is all stuff you'd be very familiar with. You hunt Plotts.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He's
So
got the
I'm
T-shirt
no
to prove it.
plot historian, though. I thought your selection of having Bob Plott, who is a descendant of the Plott family,
Yeah.
who's heard these stories his whole life,
Yeah.
and he's dove into finding out the stories.
His
for
book.
for his books.
There's a book I'm holding at Strike and Stay,
Strike
the
and
story of the
Stay.
Plott Hound. It really is a fascinating book. Bob's a real pro when it comes to history. And the coolest thing about this book is all the photos. You got to look
Yeah.
at that, Brent.
I'm gonna get it.
It's
It needs to be in every hunter's collection, really.
look at some of those pictures.
And then John Jackson.
Yeah.
Jackson has been writing plot history for decades,
Yeah.
and very well spoken. I really like the way You described him a true Southern mountain gentleman.
Yeah.
And that describes John to a T.
Yeah. He was, that was the first time I'd met John. I knew John and had communicated with him some with Bear Hunting Magazine. He had written some stuff for us, but he is like a classic Highland Southern gentleman.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way I described him. Just very proper, very articulate, but deeply passionate. Like we went down, and I recorded a bunch of this stuff, but I just wasn't able to really use it in the podcast. But the basement in his house is like a museum with plot stuff and just Appalachian rural stuff and Civil War stuff and guns and famous Plott hunters over there, guys that had Plotts. He was instrumental in finding some kind of relics of the Plott community. Anyway, just such a neat guy, but knew so much. But he's not a believer, and that's what's kind of radical.
I was disappointed.
What's that?
I was disappointed.
You were disappointed, but like John, like he said, I hate to disappoint you.
Oh, yeah, I was disappointed.
He was melancholy when he talked about it, too.
Okay, here's the deal. I've read Bob Plott's book, A New Bob Plott. I'd heard the story from, actually, Steve Hurd is the one who introduced me to the original story. Steve Hurd is a breeder of a strain of Plotts called Bluff Creek Plotts. It's the kind of dogs I've hunted. And Steve was the first one that ever introduced me to Plotts, really, and he told me the story, just like on a phone call. He's like,
Johannes,
about
years
Johannes
ago. Stepping off the Mayflower.
Yeah, about the two brothers. One of them dies. They bring 5 dogs. 2 of them or 3 of them are brindle. 2 of them are yellow, whatever. And I was like, wow, that's incredible. When I go to John Jackson, who is a Plott historian, I go to his house and I expect him to just tell me that story. And he immediately, he did such a good job. He was like, Johannes Plott, da-da-da. He just like fed me. And then he goes, Clay, I hate to disappoint you, but I don't think that happened. And I was like, literally, I was like, oh gosh. I mean, for real, I didn't know what to do with I was like, well, what am I supposed to do with this interview now that this whole story that I thought was true maybe isn't true?
Well, I think there's one big point here that I found fascinating about the whole podcast, and that is I'm less interested in what was true in terms of a historical sense and more interested in the fact that there was one family that cared enough about this thing to hand down this tradition from one generation to the next.
Yeah.
Like the veracity of the story down to the detail is less interesting to me than to zoom out and go like, here's this family that cared enough about this thing that whether or not the origin story of a guy stepping off a boat with 5 dogs is true, they are the genesis of this breed.
Yeah.
And it is because it's almost more compelling that it's not this happenstance thing of a guy, or maybe it is, but it's not this happenstance thing of a guy stepping off with 5 dogs and here we go. It's this very careful, over time, each father to son, uncle to nephew, whatever, telling this story, caring about these dogs, bringing this forward.
Yeah.
That's as compelling, if not more compelling to me than
and that's what John Jackson said. He was like, he basically said the story, either way, even the story, if that didn't happen, he said is as compelling as the original narrative.
Yeah.
But and I mean, we're kind of cutting right to the chase here. But if that story was just completely fabricated, it happened very quickly. Because Bob Plott, his 3rd great-grandfather, would have been Johannes or George Plott. 3rd great-grandfather. So, not his dad, but his, like you start going back and it's like not very far.
Yeah.
And somebody in that line had created a really wild story and cemented it into the Plott community. I mean, most Plott people wouldn't even question that story. Am I right?
Right.
In the same way that our last conversation was a conversation about, like, to some degree, like, what are humans? Like, when we're having these conversations about conservation and wildlife management, we want to remove humans from that system, right? But that's a luxury that's only happened in the last 150 to 200 years. We're a part of the system. Us growing up in this world and learning to hunt, learning to interact with animals, we're an integral part of the system. We're not a different system that's removed.
I'm not following you.
Are you serious?
Yeah, dead serious. Is anybody following what this? He's talking Chinese over here.
I never know what Isaac's talking about.
The evolution and the progress of man is integral with hunting.
Yeah.
The species we hunt, we're a part of that same system. We're not a different system. Right?
That's exactly right. And that's what the anti-hunters tried to tell us,
right,
is that we're not part of that system when
that's
we
only
are.
A narrative that's developed in the last 150, 200 years because we've had the luxury to be removed from it. And in the same way...
What's this got to do with Plott?
I'm bringing it back.
You better get it. You better hurry up.
Hey, the only thing that's standing in the way from me tying this together is you. In the same way, we look at oral narratives, oral histories...
There we go.
And we look down on them. We are like, oh, well, that's not reliable because it was oral. And it's like, that is the story of humanity.
Yeah.
The only way we gave our histories for the last the millennia preceding us is an oral history. The only reason we have anything at all. And so I think it is a very modern viewpoint to look at an oral tradition and go, well, that's not reliable. Show me a piece of paper.
That really was the head-to-head conflict. And how much weight does a oral story carry versus what was on a piece of paper on a cargo manifest. And
Chris can tell you, from a law enforcement perspective, before all these crazy CSI shows came on TV, how good was an eyewitness then who just saw something?
Oh, yeah.
Pretty reliable.
And then you had dash cams, and then you had to have dash cam.
Then you had to have fingerprints, DNA, and all that, and a man's word is just tossed out.
Yeah, that's a good point. So maybe back in the 30s, nobody would have even been asking these questions.
Even in the early 90s, before DNA and all this other stuff, you watch, getting back to what Brent said, when a police officer took a stand and he testified to something, he had credibility in the courtroom, and the defense attorney's job was to discredit this law enforcement officer. And so that's why, and I know Brent's heard this, they'll sit there and they'll say, instead of saying Officer Reeves, they'll say Mr. Reeves.
Yeah.
They'll try to discredit him. And I don't know what that has to do with what we're talking about. But
Well, I see what you're saying, Brent. Is that like, what more do we need? I mean, again, this idea of a head-to-head between the actual data and facts that we have, which are important and we need, and then an oral story. Because what's compelling is that this Plott family, very quick, what we do know 100% is that George Plott had a bunch of dogs that were unique to this part of the world, and he just came straight from Germany. What do you think, Michael?
Is there any documentation of a brindle hound in Germany?
Yeah, there is. There's a Hanoverian. Okay, that's a good point. There is a breed of dog called Hanoverian hounds, which and there is some brindle and dachshunds too, I'm told.
Okay,
I don't know if that's
I got
true.
a few questions here.
Okay.
How do you spell Johannes?
Like Johannes.
Okay, with a J. With a J.
Hannes.
Okay, so that.
Oh, now I'm going to get on to Michael. What does this have to do?
What that
what
has
do you call
to do
it
with
when
it? What did you say when you what anglicized? What's the word? Anglicized.
Yeah.
All right, that would be anglicized to John, not George.
Well, we're not arguing that. You have to
Okay.
take that up with the Plotts.
Well, I know, and I'm not going to tell anybody their family story because I don't really have a clue. This is just my mind. If someone asks a question, this is where I'm going to go to. It was signed G Plott.
G Plott.
Not J Plott.
Right.
All right, so Johannes probably wasn't the name on the boat.
Right. And I mean, that's what John Jackson says.
Yeah, it was probably George. How does a boy that's by himself, that his brother just died, land in a country where he has no money and no possessions and take care of 5 dogs and keep them alive all that way?
But see, we don't know. We don't have
I
any
don't
of
know
that story.
any. That's what I'm saying. I don't know if there's more to the story I'm not hearing,
Right.
or where this goes. In my opinion, let me ask you this too.
They might kill you. You know that, right?
They don't know where I live.
I'll tell them.
Gary, where's the Newcombs from?
England.
England? Okay.
Negative. Scotland.
Scotland.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you think they come from somewhere other than Scotland?
What do you mean?
What I mean is, before they got to Scotland, were they somewhere else?
Yeah,
Probably.
they came from somewhere.
The moon, I
Okay.
think.
You can't make these dogs out here sane, from what I know from dog breeding, out of 5 dogs.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So there is so much any hound, not just Plott, you're calling them Americana, the same things with Walker dogs, blue ticks, anything else. They got their body shape, their overall makeup from English hounds. Okay,
Right.
the long ears,
European
yeah,
hounds.
everything else was American. There's no telling how much of that.
Well, the
was
thing
mixed
that's
into
different
it.
about a Plott than any other breed of the hounds is they are different. They're a different style of dog.
Style, but if you just look at them, they're a hound.
No, that's not true.
You don't think so?
No, their ears are shorter.
I told
they're
him coming up here
more
they
of
were
a
curs.
more of a flag tail in
Yeah.
a traditional. I do not believe, because the Appalachian people are way too pragmatic to not breed the five. They're not pure. If Old Shep was a good bear dog, this dog that I'm calling a Plott's getting bred to Old
Which
Shep.
makes them Americana, but that was my point.
Yeah.
This same thing happened in blue ticks, English, Walkers.
What same thing? Clarify.
They were bred to curs. They were bred
Yeah,
to
sure,
whatever.
okay, I
The
see.
best squirrel dog I've ever seen in my life was half Labrador and half Chow. No kind of hound whatsoever. Absolute treeing machine.
And you're saying that could have been
I'm saying
bred in.
that there may be a little bit of German something in those dogs, but these hounds what was mixed into them come from Native Americans. They come from the Appalachian people that were already here.
Yeah.
And I don't see a difference in the Plott story and Walkers or Black and Tans.
Well, but okay, that's I could shoot some holes in that boat.
No, but you
because
can't. You
Walkers,
can't.
Watch
the
out, you'll
Walkers,
hit
the
Johannes.
Walkers in that photo right there
No.
look just like the Walkers in your kennel.
That's because
not a
they
photo.
chose.
English.
That's because they chose a color to breed to. Because Walker dogs started out as English dogs.
Okay.
They were the same dogs as blue ticks, the same dogs as red ticks.
That's right.
And they
Black
chose
and
that
tans.
color pattern and bred for that color.
I hear what you're saying, but you're not making your point very clear.
Yeah, I
what's
am.
your just give me
My
give me
overall-
one sentence.
The overall thing
You're saying
is
that they came from dogs that were
all
here.
of those hounds are Americana. Every
Yeah.
one of them. They all have the same story. The difference in them is that the Plott hounds has one particular family that they go back to.
Right. Okay.
The rest
I
of
see what you're
them
saying.
are overall, but the story of them is all the exact same.
Okay, let me ask you this: why does the Plott? I see what you're saying about the shape of a hound. I mean, I could give you that. They're shaped about like a hound, but all blue ticks and even, I mean, the brindle is different than any other English hound. Where'd that come from?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I got a French bulldog that's brindle.
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
Where
right.
that probably come from the mixing of all these other dogs into that were not hounds but had the traits that they were looking for. Like I told you, I had a lab and a chow that would tree.
Yeah.
So they were pragmatic. They would have took anything that would have improved their dogs and put that in
So
there.
there's a case, and I said it when I talked about, and I'm not sure I used the correct term by saying that brindle was a recessive gene inside of all dogs, but I mean there are brindle boxers, there are brindle feist. My little feist out here is brindle Plotts, brindle pit bulls. Like brindle is something, and that was my buddy who's a big time Plott man, is the one who brought that up to me. He was like, Clay, if you just mix a bunch of dogs together, it's not long before you have a bunch of brindle. What say you to this, Chris?
I think you can mix.
What say you?
I think you can mix a lot of blue ticks together, and you're never going to get brindle.
Okay, I like it.
So I think there was
The brindle means something.
Yeah,
You think it does.
it was a concentration from the Plott family. I'm more of I latch on because I am a romantic and a historian, and I like the story of Johannes Plott. And that story, I think he probably came here with the intent of being a gameskeeper, following his father's trade back in Germany. He was probably an indentured servant at the time, so he already had a place to go. He didn't need money. Somebody picked him up off that boat and brought him down there, and he had some dogs with him. And after he worked off his indentured servitude, he was also a man of means, from getting money at the old world country, which the Plotts were influential
money.
type people.
Yeah.
And they got it from somewhere.
Yeah.
They were business people, they were horse people, and I think they had the influence and the means to be able to and I'm not saying at all they kept all the genetics within those 5 dogs. I'm with Michael.
And I don't think anybody's saying that, but that's like the exaggerated fairy tale version of the story.
The reason that it's an Americana story is because of the deep, rich history. It's a North Carolina state dog. It's there's mountains named after the Plott family.
Yeah.
It just fits Americana.
That was my whole thing.
You look at the Walker dog, and you can talk about George Washington,
Yeah.
So there's some
But
of that.
they're not the same dogs.
They're not the same dog, but they are the dogs where our Treem Walkers came from when you trace it backwards.
Brent, what about the whole
They
story
actually
was
come from a
most
black and
important
tan.
to you?
Which came from the English Foxhound.
Yeah, but it was a black and tan.
Hey,
These two
I don't want to have that conversation. Brent, what was the most thing what stood out to you most? And you probably wouldn't have known that story much about it, would you?
No, very little of it had I ever heard. But also, the longer I listened to it, I could care less which story was true.
Right.
What fascinated me was the family. And that's what is so rich in it, and what's so American to me is they can trace it back to that family so far. And everyone was all in on these dogs, regardless of where they came from. Once they got it started, they stayed with it. And it was father and son and grandson and grandson and grandson and nephew and uncle and everybody. And there's still folks over there right now spelling their last name Plott, and they've got those dogs in the front yard. And to me, that is the absolute coolest thing. This would be a heck of a movie. This would beat Old Yeller to death.
Yeah.
It was an awesome story. My favorite part of the whole thing was when you were riding with Bob in the beginning, and he was saying, they were here and this was his house.
Yeah.
That was awesome. The story of them bringing those dogs and it following them through history and the pride that they would have had is just awesome.
Yeah.
I had 7 generations of the same females starting 7 generations ago, and they were it for me. And they would feel the exact same way. But could you imagine, not 7 generations ago, but when did they bring the dogs over? 1750? If you breed a female, most of the time around 2 or 3 years old, you're looking at 100 generations of dogs.
Yeah.
So they have 100 generations of those dogs. That's awesome.
To me, the most, like, if you're talking about how the Plott story is different, and not that we're trying to say it's better than, I've had many people already say you should do one of these on the Walker breed, and I'm sure we could. I mean, we could.
It's not as interesting though.
Well, but that's what I think. To me, being an adult, and I got into Plotts roughly 9 years ago. That's kind of when I was introduced. So I was an adult, and it was like my eyes popped open when I went and saw Roy Clark and Tracy and Ben Jones and Curtis Walker and who are some of Mark Dufresne up in Maine and Dan Wagner and Ira Jones. Oh, can't forget Ira.
Yeah.
Ricky Reinhardt. All the guys that I know over there, and a bunch of people are going to get upset if I don't start naming their names, Chris. Who am I missing that I know? There's these incredible Plott people that just are deep in it. I mean, they just bleed Plott. And it's such a regional phenomena. That's to me what's the coolest part of it. The whole thing is that it happened in a very small geographic area and was isolated geographically for basically 150 years. And then it just exploded.
That was put through the lens of this is a geographic region that has been sort of a national joke. Like, look at those poor people. Look at, they've got nothing. And to be like, this thing that I can take pride in that comes from here, that is my thing and is now nationally recognized as the best at what it does. Yeah. I think that sort of incongruency or seeming incongruency
you're foreshadowing into the next episode, Isaac.
I'll shut
you
it
hadn't
down.
even heard it.
I know.
No, for real. We talk about how that these people didn't have much, but this is something they had.
Yeah.
Well, I know
they were
this.
valuable.
That's why it became so valuable.
They were valuable enough to be hauled out to places like Oregon when the timber trade took off in Oregon. These Appalachians who have been cutting chestnuts and all this other stuff for generations, it's like, yeah, we can cut down big trees. When they went, they took their dogs.
Yeah.
You know, and that's how the brindle dogs end up in the Northwest.
Today, the Plott is all over. I mean, you go to Wisconsin and Michigan, they're big hubs for
Everett
Plotts.
Weems lived in Illinois.
He was a big coon hunter.
Yep. But he also
big game.
bred some of the best big game dogs. You got Salmon River dogs that Doc Smith had out in Salmon, Idaho.
Yeah. What, Chris? Give me kind of like a tour of the Plott geographically. We're not gonna hit everybody. So if you're offended by this, then I'm sorry. But like,
it's Chris'
fault. My buddy, my dear friend of our family, the Clarks in East Tennessee, Laurel Mountain Plotts.
Yeah.
Who just name some of them? There's no way we can name them all.
Well, Everett ended up taking dogs and getting them in Illinois, and those were the Weems bred dogs. And then you had
Plotts.
Yeah, Weems bred, and then those turned into Swampland dogs and Mike Colley's Bayou Cajun
Mike Colley in Louisiana.
And then you got Swampland was Leroy Hogg in Ferdinand, Indiana.
That's right.
Mike Colley ends up with the Bayou Cajun Plotts that he's been breeding on for years. You've got the Houston Valley Plotts in Eastern Tennessee.
Tracy and
you got
Ben.
the Salmon River Plotts that were out in the Salmon River country. You got the Bluff Creek Plotts in Oklahoma or Kansas. Mm-hmm. So it was one of those deals.
Pocahontas and West Virginia, and West Virginia Plotts. You got Curtis Walker.
You've got the Redwood Plotts that Jeff Koons kind of inherited from his uncle. And developed into highly skilled dogs. You got the Sarge bred Plotts from Ohio.
Brandenburg,
that was an older.
That's good enough. Just the point is that
widespread.
That inside of the Plott world, there's these little narrow channels, and people just go nuts over them. People are looking for certain dogs that are bred in certain ways, and just to the average person to be like, it's just a Plott. It's
right.
just. But there's these real specific things connected to real specific people, and it's like it's just kind of neat.
Do these dogs start to get different looks?
Yeah, a real student of the Plott breed will be able to tell. Brandenburger Plotts were a little bigger and a little houndier looking than what some other. And a real good person, better than I am, can walk through Plott days and say, well, that's a Pocahontas and that's a brand, or this is that.
They do have a look. Yeah.
So, you get a trained eye for them.
I love hounds, all of them. And I've never really paid much attention to Plotts because, there's not very many around here.
Yeah.
But undeniably, they have the best backstory of any of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. There's none of the rest of these hounds. So, you have blue ticks with the Vaughns and those guys, and you have the Walker dogs with the Giddings up there, and there's several different, but none of them have the type of story that a Plott hound has.
Yeah, that's why I like them. Dad, what stood out to you, just like in the whole story? Like, what surprised you? What stood out?
Well, it's amazing that a family name could be attached to those dogs for so long, and I like to play the game of who's right? Was it the two boys coming from Germany? Was it George's family coming over? So you made a compelling argument. You guys just really did a great job. My argument would be that this was a smart, successful family. You got a guy here that wrote a book.
Yeah.
I trust oral. They couldn't find documentation to support oral, but these are brilliant people. Successful people. You don't see the Newcomb name all over the world. These guys, there's something special about these Plott people. And they're not going to pass down lies. George tells his boy Henry. Henry tells Monty. Monty tells John. And it goes up to your buddy Bob.
Right.
That's not too far back.
Yeah.
So
you're saying it's not. They didn't just fabricate an outright lie.
Yeah. I admit that it could be the other way. But
that's a big question that has to be answered.
Yeah.
Was
I
there a
just
family?
answered it.
Was there a family reunion when they're like, back in the 1800s, before they
Yeah.
knew there was going to be an internet or anybody was going to care. We're going to
get our
like, okay,
stories straight.
here's
Get
what
the
we're going to do, boys.
stories
Hey, Moses wrote the book of Genesis thousands of years after the Garden of Eden. So, do you believe that or not?
There you go. There
If you
go.
can't believe that, then the Plott story probably isn't for you.
The likelihood is it's probably a little bit of both.
Yeah.
Just like any other story, it's
Yeah.
probably a little bit of both.
Yeah.
And in all fairness to John or Mr. Jackson,
John Jackson.
I don't feel like I felt like he was very measured in his response. It was more
Oh,
of I could
100%.
not
I
find
can't prove
document. Yeah.
Yeah.
He wasn't. Yeah, I didn't feel like it was too antagonistic or aggressive.
Yeah. And no doubt. Well, I tried to make it clear too that, you know, one option would be that this family, just to go along with what you said, were so sharp, dominant socially, successful, that maybe not even with intentionality, the Plott name just got attached to them.
Right.
And that's kind of what John Jackson says. And it wasn't like they did this as some kind of conspiracy. It just happened on its own, you know, and it emerged as the Plott Hound, but really the bigger web was much bigger in many other families. And in theory, and this is an exaggerated thing, but in theory, there could have been some other family that was as involved but not as vocal. I mean, that's kind of the idea, which there's no evidence that really supports that. Like there was not another dominant family. And what my friend, I'm not going to say his name because he might feel like he's going to get in trouble. He told me, a friend of ours, Chris, over in Appalachia, that's a big Plott man. He said, Clay, can you imagine a family in Appalachia that was raising dogs, two families raising dogs, break it down, two families raising dogs that were the same and they'd been working together, and one family gets to name the dog after their family. He said, don't you think the other family would be throwing a fit?
Oh yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying? Like as if the Plotts came in and like swooped in to get all the glory for this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, 100%.
And this guy was like, no. He said, and he basically was like, I think they got it honest.
Yeah.
You know what I
you'd
mean?
hear documentation of the other family going, hold up.
Yeah.
Those
are our dogs.
This is the Jones dog.
I can
Jones
tell
Hound.
you. I can tell you that even within an established breed, you know, breeding for traits, breeding for conformation, breeding for color, and things like that, it's tough to do by yourself. Even your own family, you're going to need a network of people.
Yes.
So that would be a regional thing for Appalachia at the time. You know, there's other people in the community that needed bear dogs, and the Plotts had the dogs. But when it comes back to it, and now I've got to breed the next generation of dog, it's like, is that a Plott? Well, I don't know if it's a Plott dog or not. Well, it looks like a Plott, and it's a really good bear dog. It's going to fit into this program. We can make this work. You know, that dog's got traits that I like. So he's not going to upset the apple cart here. So I really like him. Let's add him. That's just that's a natural development of whether it's cattle, breed, dog, sheep, or whatever. You know?
Yeah. And undoubtedly that happened.
And at some point, it got to the point where, you know, Vaughn, a few generations later, he already had his breed type. He already had his standard. Isaiah Kidd, all those guys, they all had that breed standard and stuff, and so they didn't breed outside of it. Their gene pool was big enough where they could stay within the breed type, and boom, 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 it just exploded.
Yeah.
Well, it didn't explode, but they're still the most rare.
I was going to bring up, I had somebody that got on to me they said I bashed Ford trucks. When I said it's like building a Ford truck, we needed some overseas parts, but make it American made. And they thought it was like a punch to Ford.
Oh, really? That's crazy.
I
figured-
could have said anything. I could have used any single. I thought it was funny though.
I was triggered.
Yeah, they were. Yeah, somebody was triggered on that. That was funny. Well, what other thoughts? Yeah, this. I have been working on this in ways for a long, long time. I did those interviews 2 years ago, and I actually did.
You sounded younger.
Yeah, I sounded younger. Wasn't as smart though.
No, not even close.
But it was a lot of fun, and I think people that aren't even into hounds could listen to it because it really wasn't about.
No, it was a family story.
It's Americana. It's American history, and it's a legacy.
Yeah,
and you find a lot of value in it. And all you got to do is look. It's just barely look under the surface of it. I know you've heard me talk about, and I've talked about on my podcast about my dad's the squirrel dogs in my family. Started with my great grandfather. Well, it ended with me and my brother. We have no more of them. They're gone.
Right.
There will never be any more of those dogs. And that is what's so cool about it to me, and even emotional when I listen to it and think about all of that history with that family.
Yeah.
And there's more. I can't wait for the rest of it.
I don't think people, including me, understand the dedication it takes to have a generational line of hounds.
That's what I was fixing to say. It's an incredible amount of work. Those 7 generations, I had 7 generations of females all the way back. I didn't feel like breeding for a little while, and I didn't, and the last one died the day that Heck was born. And that's it. They're gone. There isn't any more of them.
Yeah.
That's it.
And to think going back that many it just takes a ton of intentionality. Yeah. How many Plotts do you have, Chris, right now?
I've got 2 right now.
2.
Yeah, I've just got 2.
Yeah. What's their breeding?
They're Bayou Cajun Plotts. My college stuff.
Yeah, good.
Yep.
Well, I am big time in the market for a Plott female. I've decided. I told these guys. So this is funny, and this will give you a little bit of insight as we close down into the way people think about these things. So my good Plott female that I had,
Fern.
Fern, Newcomb's Ozark BC Fern. BC stands for Bluff Creek. Got it from Steve Hurd. She was all I needed in a coon dog. If I had another one like her for the rest of my life, I'd be happy. That doesn't mean she was good. Doesn't mean she was bad. I just liked her.
That's good enough.
She died last winter. She died. Plott coon dogs are hard to find. I mean, it's not that hard to get a Plott, but I tried to replace her for 5 years before she died. Like I got.
I told you all about that.
And went through, I think, 4 different dogs. And I even went as far as to hunt a Walker dog. Michael had a dog.
That's it. I'm done.
Yeah. I hunted a dog for a couple of days that Michael had that was a fine hound. I mean, probably better than any hound I've ever handled. And what I learned was I didn't want a Walker dog. I thought I wanted a coon dog. I didn't really want a coon dog.
You want a Plott dog.
I wanted a Plott coon dog because I actually trial hunted another Walker during this summer, and a guy, just a friend of mine, had a dog. Said, I hunted it 3 nights and just gave it back to him, and it wasn't the dog's fault. I just was kind of like, that was kind of the dog's fault. But it just didn't do it for me.
You like what you like.
And it doesn't make any sense. Yeah. And I think it probably bumfuzzled my 2 dear Walker friends here. They're like, "Hey, Clay, I thought you wanted a coon dog."
Yeah. No,
here you go.
I've always known you're weird.
You know why I got a Walker dog? Because the first dog I got was a Walker dog.
Yeah. If that had happened to me, that's the way I'd have been.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that there's a lot of really nice dogs out there of all colors. I mean, there really are. Plotts, you take like the Redwood line of Plotts, and you take like Johnny Hager from West Virginia, and he can compete just with anybody. You know he's going to be there. You're going to know he was there anyway.
Yeah.
And Evan Workman and Jeff Coons and now they're out there. But I always get tickled out of these guys that are they're hunting a Walker or something like this, and they're like, yeah, I always thought I'd try a Plott sometime. It's like, man, you don't have enough buy-in. It's like no, that's not the way this works. You got to have total buy-in.
Commitment.
It's like liking to deer hunt. And think, I think I'll pick up a flintlock and go out and shoot a deer with it. You got to be more invested in it than that.
That's a good way to say it.
It's not easy. I'm not even saying you're smart. I'm just saying it's not,
Yeah. My life would be easier. I could go. I bet money. We should probably do it. I bet today, Dad. I bet I could buy 5 Walker dogs in the state of Arkansas that we could take out tonight and go tree a
And
coon.
tree a coon, I guarantee
In the next
it.
4 hours, I'd make 4 or 5 calls, and I could get a good 3-year-old dog if I had the money. I mean,
Oh, you get it.
You do, yeah. Look at that.
I'll sell you one when this is over.
yeah.
And
But
I know
if you
what
did
a
the
coon
same,
dog
if I had 10 grand, and you said, Clay, go find you a good 2-year-old Plott female coon dog, I'd be like, okay.
Which direction do I go?
I mean, there might be out there, and money talks. I might be able to pry one out of somebody.
Though? Why? Just because they're more big game hounds is what
Well,
they've
no,
leaned towards.
Man, how long are we going to make this podcast?
This is what I made. In,
Part
I
4.
said this in a post on Instagram I made and tagged Brent Reeves. There's 100 walkers to every one Plott, maybe more, maybe 1,000 walkers. Like if you actually did the population dynamics on the breed of dog, let's just say there's 100 to 1. If I give you 100 tries to throw a beanbag through a hole and I get one, you're going to win every
time.
single time. Mm-hmm. And my point is that, because me and you have joked, Brent, and I've said that to Brent before, and I'm pretty sure he was like, well, why do you think there's 100 walkers?
Exactly.
Because they're good and people want them. I don't think that logic is not entirely true, because it all has to do with access. And the walker you couldn't even get Plotts till the 1940s.
Walker dogs are good entry-level dogs for people that need them.
You got to get to the top tier.
No. And I'm not. This is not degrading to walkers. I'm just saying it's not that simple.
No.
And so they're just a smaller pool. They're primarily big game dogs. There's just it's just like go right now and try to find a 6-week-old Plott pup.
When we were
you're going to be hard to find.
When we were talking earlier, I said Plotts are different, and they are. And in 1946, UKC decided to recognize them as a hound, and it had some value for historical preservation and records keeping and stuff like that. But at that point, now you're allowed to go hunt them in UKC night hunts and different. So there's even a lot of strife within the Plott breeders and fanciers between big game bred and coon bred dog, coon dog type stuff.
Yeah.
There's that kind of strife. There's strife. Well, he's a good bear dog, but or he's a good hog dog, but they're not good. They're too hard for bear. You get them killed on bear. You can just go on and on and on. You can make all kinds of stuff. So the reason walkers are better is because people have one goal in mind, and that's to breed a good coon dog.
Yeah.
Plott breeders want hog dogs. They want utilitarian dogs. They want bear dogs. They want coon dogs. They want...
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Walker breeders are like, we're going to tree coons with this dog, and we're going to win world championships, and we're going to win a lot of them. And that's what they do.
And Dad, that's the walker dominates the hound world. I mean, dominates. Like, I don't know, the big world championship hunts. How many have not been walkers in the last 20 years? I mean, there's been some. There's some English and some maybe a blue tick here and there, maybe.
No, but not in UKC. Blue tick's never won the UKC World.
Okay. But anyway, the walker is like the dog that you have if you're a coon dog guy. But so that's what Brent's got.
ACHA.
You had a blue tick as a kid, didn't you?
Yeah, my first dogs were blue ticks. Mm-hmm.
I was saying the blue ticks won some ACHA world hunts, didn't they?
Yeah.
And there was a Plott that won the world one time in the 80s, right?
Yep.
That was our one. That was like Arkansas Razorbacks, 1994. NCAA champs, Corliss Williamson, Scotty Thurman, beat Duke.
That's right.
1994, go Hogs, right?
Right.
That's the one thing we've got in this whole state. Like our whole history.
We got basketball and we got almost baseball.
Well, that's like the Plotts. When was it? 1988 that dog won the world championship?
86.
They won the PKC World one time, too.
Yep. They won the PKC World. Yep.
So, we got a few bright spots in the past.
That's good.
But we do have a good story.
Yeah, John Walkup won it, PKC, and
Sarge.
Spud Reynolds and Jim Canham won it with Sizzling Heat in the UKC World Hunt.
I guess I could use this platform to my advantage to try to appeal to some of these good Plott coon men.
I thought that was
get
the
me a
only
dog.
reason you were doing this.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah, that's
This
right.
whole thing has been a
The whole
machination.
Well, see,
thing.
I've
Somebody,
hunted
please.
the dog, Fern, the dog that you and Michael have both hunted with.
Yeah, she was a good.
Well, she was not. She was the only coon dog. I mean, almost all those dogs went to be lion and bear and hog dogs.
Yeah, but
Like-
Fern could have been as good a coon dog as there is. Fern's little holes that she had was because of you.
no doubt.
So it was stuff that you let her do that was
Sure.
okay with you. So
Sure.
other than that,
Sure.
just treat coons as good as any dog I've ever seen.
Yep.
So
You're being generous. He doesn't say that when I'm not around.
No, he does.
yeah.
That's the truth. I've seen
Well,
it. He saw it.
I've been around some top Plott coon dogs. I mean, they're out there, but they're just hard to get your hands on.
yeah. Yep. Well, any closing thoughts?
Yeah, just one thought. I can't remember which one it was, but one of those boys, his boy,
Montreville.
yeah, said he would never have a bathroom inside a house
Yeah.
he was living in.
Yeah.
I thought about that 2 different times today, just driving down the road going, I mean, there is
That
a
makes
logic
a lot
to it.
of sense.
he wasn't the only one in that time period that thought that
Oh.
either. That was I'm not.
That
getting a
was
bathroom
I
in the
left
house.
that in there because it was such a little nugget. Yeah, he said I will. He didn't have an indoor bathroom until like the 1940s.
Yeah.
because he said I will never go to the bathroom in my house. How crazy are you? That was good. Now that Plott history over there, golly, if you're ever in Western North Carolina, Maggie Valley, Haywood, I know you've seen all the sites, Chris. There's a really neat historical marker put up by the state of North Carolina that looks over the Plott Balsam Range, and it's a big bronze, about the half the size of a truck hood, that has the story of the Plott Hound.
Oh,
It says
cool.
that the Plotts, they lived here, they hunted here, they did this. It's really cool. And then Bob just gave me the tour. Man, one day, I'll realize what a unique thing I had spending the day, a lot more than that, with Bob Plott over there. Such a neat guy. And yeah.
The cabin in the White House, those need to be preserved, if nothing, in really good photography, and put it somewhere on display.
Yeah.
I can't believe those two places are just, maybe
Well-
they're not being neglected.
Well, listen to this. So Mont Plott's house that was built in like 1902.
1903.
Yeah, 1903. Somebody it's not in the Plott family anymore. Somebody has bought that and they've fixed it up, and it's a beautiful home. Probably worth a ton of money. They kept it classic though. They kept it, they held true. Just imagine a really nice home that's been renovated but still holds the kind of the traditional looks and styles. And so me and Bob went to this man's house, knocked on the door. Bob knew him, and he's like, "Oh, Bob," and he was like, "Hey, these are Plott men. They want to see, Mont's old house." And he took us all through the house, and real neat. And the cabin is surprisingly still intact. They've done a good job of keeping it up, but it's not public. It's not like you can go there and knock on this guy's door, and it's very private, and they're not like telling you where it's at. But yeah, it's a massive piece
I
of history.
think the photography of it should be out for the public to see.
And it is somewhere. Well, there's pictures of all that in Bob's book.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's the name of that
story.
again?
Strike and Stay. The story of the Plott Hound. Yeah, man, support old Bob. He's a great writer. He's done a lot of writing in Southern Appalachia. He's got a stack of great
These are
history
Southern
books.
Highlands. Isn't that one of his, or was it the Legendary Hunters of the Southern Highlands?
Yeah, that's it.
That's another book.
There's a bunch of them.
Yeah.
There's some on the railroads and
Yep.
different things. But yeah, this has been great. Thank you, Chris, for coming from Indiana.
Oh, it's my honor.
Amen. Very
Michael.
good, Chris.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
From South Arkansas, Sunspot Lights, Southern-ish Arkansas.
Southernish.
Grady,
No,
Right.
McCrae.
North Central.
Okay.
wherever, He's somewhere.
I was just going to let him roll with it.
You don't want people to know
Somewhere.
where
He
you live.
lives somewhere down there. It doesn't matter. Isaac, good to have you. Brent, good to have you.
Gotcha. brother.
Hey, Meat Eater's got a bunch of Black Friday sales. First Light, if you want to take advantage of these big companies, now's your time. Now's your time. Thank you, guys.
You bet.
I'm sure a lot of you guys remember the old ceremonial hunting tradition of eating the heart out of the first animal you kill. Meat from those organs are among the most nutrient-rich foods on the planet. You can get those same benefits your ancestors craved via convenient daily capsules from Heart and Soil. Find out more at heartandsoil.co. And remember, use code MeatEater for 10% off your purchase.
Outdoor adventure won't wait for engine problems. Things like hard starts, rough performance, and lost fuel economy are often caused by fuel gum and varnish buildup. Seafoam can help your engine run better and last longer. Simply pour a can in your gas tank. Hunters and anglers rely on Seafoam to keep their engines running the way it should the entire season. Pick up a can of Seafoam today at your local auto parts store or visit seafoamworks.com to learn more.